This is an AI-generated podcast based on the article The Decision Was Easy, The Consequences Were Hard. Brandon Bora on Integrity in Commercial Real Estate, written by Daniel Sharer. The article link is in the show notes. Brandon, welcome to Kingdom Factor Collective. Really glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really excited to be here and just share a little bit of what I've learned along the way.
So let's just go right to the beginning. There's this story early in your career where someone told you that you'd never make it in leasing, and it all started with refusing to inflate some numbers. Can you just walk me through what actually happened there?
Yeah, so someone asked me to inflate sales numbers for a report. And honestly, the decision itself wasn't hard. I knew it was wrong. But what I didn't expect was I went to my boss thinking I'd be affirmed, right? Like, hey, I did the right thing here. And instead, I basically got a shrug, this vague explanation about how the numbers get adjusted anyway. And then my peers, they kind of quietly concluded that I just didn't have what it takes, that I was a thorn rather than an asset. And I'll be honest, that stung. I'm a striver. I want to achieve. I want to look good in front of my peers and my boss. So being seen that way was not a great place to be.
That's a really vulnerable thing to admit, the sting of it, because I think a lot of people would tell that story and skip over how much it actually hurt. But you said something that's kind of stuck with me. The decision was easy, the consequences were hard. Can you unpack that a little more?
Yeah, I mean, the reason the decision was easy is because I already knew what was right. When you settled that in your heart ahead of time, the decision in the moment isn't really a decision anymore, you know? But the consequences, the social cost, the reputation hit, that part was real. And what made it harder was this pervasive idea in business that, like, is just business. That phrase, I think, is one of the most spiritually corrosive things we say, because it's basically an exit ramp from accountability. It lets you separate who you are professionally from who you are as a person. And I take very seriously not bifurcating who I am in and outside of the office.
That framing, it's just business as an exit ramp, that's really sharp. And what's interesting is that that story had a follow-up. About a year later, one of those peers reached out to you. What happened?
Yeah, so he faced the exact same pressure. Someone asked him to manipulate numbers, and he declined. And when he called me, he said he remembered what I had done the year before. And that just, it hit me. Because in the moment, it felt like I'd lost. But that seed, planted at personal cost, had taken root. And that's the long game, right? That's why it matters.
I love that. And it connects to something you talk about around financial stewardship. This idea that desperation narrows your choices. There's a Morgan Housel reference in there. What's the link for you between financial margin and integrity?
So Housel makes this observation that if you deprive a person of their basic necessities, within 2 weeks, you may not recognize them. And his point isn't that people are bad, it's that desperation changes the calculus. When you're backed into a corner financially, the temptation to compromise gets a lot louder. So I think it's so incumbent to make good decisions early, build margin, live below your means, so that when a scenario plays out where telling the truth could kill a deal, you actually have the freedom to do it. Desperation narrows choices. Margin expands them. Does that make sense?
Completely. And in commercial real estate specifically, where you're transacting with the same people for decades, your reputation is basically a compounding asset or a compounding liability.
Exactly. Long term, people want to do business with people they can trust. If they know that when you say something, they can take it to the bank, they want to work with you longer. Chipping away at that for short term gain is a trade no serious professional should make.
Let's shift a little. You're now VP of Real Estate Development at D1 Training. Teams spread across 4 time zones. What does it look like to build culture in that kind of distributed environment, especially through a faith lens?
Yeah, so logistics are a real challenge, but what I focus on more than scheduling is culture. Specifically, building a team that refuses to let someone quietly sink while others watch. Like, we want to be a team that carries each other's burdens. If somebody is struggling and someone else has capacity, it's not that's their problem. It's how can I lift you up? What can I take off your plate? How do we do this together? And I'm very open that those values are predicated on my faith. I don't apologize for that framework.
That's interesting, because there's also this concept you pull from. The idea that busyness without impact is actually one of the enemy's most effective tools. Where does that come from for you? It's from
The ruthless elimination of hurry, and the idea is just that being perpetually occupied isn't the goal. The goal is to be focused on high leverage work that actually moves the needle. You can be incredibly busy and have very little impact. And I think that's a trap a lot of leaders fall into.
Okay, one more thread I want to pull on. You used to do a ton of outside service. Fitness and Bible small groups, mission trips, big brothers, big sisters. And then life shifted. Marriage, a baby on the way. How did you navigate that tension between service and your own household?
Yeah, that was humbling, honestly. There's a verse in 1 Timothy that says, "A man who doesn't provide for his own household has denied the faith." And for me, that gave me both biblical permission and biblical direction to say no to things I used to say yes to freely. You only have so much time, energy, and impact that you can pour into the things that matter most. I had to have the humility to say, you cannot be all things to all people. My wife and I still serve, but it's sustainable now. It doesn't compete with the people closest to me.
That's such a mature perspective, and I think a lot of people in earlier seasons need to hear that saying no to good things is sometimes obedience. Last question. For the young professional listening right now, trying to figure out how faith and work actually fit together, what do you want them to walk away with?
Yeah, I'd say what gets caught is what gets taught. Your modeling, your leadership, your example should say more about you as a Christian than what comes out of your mouth. Look at your calendar. Look at how you treated the last person who frustrated you. Look at what you did when a deal went sideways. Would a neutral observer conclude that you operate with the character of Christ? And for those earlier in the journey, serve well, work hard, resist the urgency to reach the summit quickly, keep your integrity high, have great energy. And how you handle the hard, that is one of the biggest reflections of who you really are.
Brandon, this has been genuinely good. Thank you for being this open about the early failures, the costs, the wins, all of it. Really appreciate you. For everyone listening, the full article is linked in the show notes. It's worth the read. And we'll catch you on the next episode of Kingdom Factor Collective.